to live like your ancestor. So our ancestors would get up in the middle of the night to add wood to a fire, or they would let the fire go out, and they would sleep on animal skins. They were grounded. They were in touch with the Earth's electromagnetic field, recharging themselves with that negative charge of the Earth's ground. And they were also eating with the seasons. They were in touch with their circadian rhythm. They would go to bed either with firelight or with the sun's. By the way, I'm sitting in cold water here, cold thermogenesis. So they would take baths in the morning in cold water if it was winter, and they would eat different like tubers and things like that in the wintertime. Juno's gonna join me again. She always kind of follows suit with whatever I'm up to, even though she was just shivering a minute ago. By the way, shivering activates the same pathways as exercise. So, and so does it produces norepinephrine being in cold water, and so does heat shock therapy from saunas. They used to do a lot of sweat lodges where they would make, depending on what indigenous culture it was, but some type of structure out of animal skins, and they would have a hot fire, and they would purge themselves of negative thoughts, and they would get into a meditative state. So I encourage you all to live more like your ancestors. There's Juno in the background doing a fun photo bomb. And also it's important to wag more and bark less, and also act like a 6-year-old. So dogs can sometimes act like a 6-year-old. So yeah, she's obviously in touch with the Earth's electromagnetic field a lot more than I am. So I'm adding a lot more cold thermogenesis to my life, and heat shock therapies with my own personal sweat lodge type routine, where I get into a meditative state, and I'm also using the heat to improve a lot of my metabolic pathways. So so it's really important to remember that each cell in your body has its own circadian rhythm, and so we're digesting our foods at a certain time as far as our proper circadian rhythm, and going to bed with the sun, getting up with the sun, which in our modern American lives, we're not really eating natural. We're not eating like our ancestors. For example, this tree that we're sitting under is a spruce tree, and it's full of all kinds of wild medicine. So there's benefits of the bark, to eat the bark in a tea. There's benefits in the sap or the resin as far as medicinal benefits. The needles themselves have benefits and terpenes, and so and they also have vitamin C, of course. Well, but each wild plant that we have, it contains a lot of valuable nutrition that's often been lost. So if we go back to our ancestral knowledge and couple that with modern, up-to-date scientific research, we can not only live full of vitality, but we can increase our lifespan. So there are humans that have lived over 120 years old now, and they predict worldwide that is going to exponentially go up. But in the United States, our longevity is actually going down, and part of that is that we have disconnected from our ancestral roots, and we're living this standard American lifestyle. And I was doing that as well, but some things that you can do to make some changes is just take one step at a time. Go for a short walk, get out into the sun a little bit more, get some vitamin D, and eat more whole foods, eat real foods, cook your own food from scratch. Don't eat food-like substances. When you shop at the grocery store, shop on the outside aisles. Or in my case, I add more wild foods to my diet every day. So, and every week, month, so I shouldn't say every day I add more, but I strive towards adding more on a monthly basis. And in order to do that, I'm constantly educating myself, but I also love to teach what I've learned. And so when I was living in Alaska, I was consuming 80% of foods that I was hunting, fishing, gathering, or growing. So that's really important because then I know where my food comes from. I'm processing my food, I'm connected with it. And in the case of nature's true organic wild food, it's actually much healthier and contains hormesis or xenohormetic compounds that actually the plant produces when it's grown in a wild state. Let's say it's starved of the proper amount of water at that time. So it creates this natural stress response in the plant. And then as we eat it, it's actually helping us because we're getting the hormesis benefits like you would get in exercise. When you are building muscle, you first, break it down and it becomes weaker. And that is a positive stress. So heat shock therapy, thermogenesis, they also are hermetic responses that our body adapts to and becomes stronger. And combining that with xenohermetic foods that we eat, especially plants, for example, or animals that eat wild plants instead of corn, soy, or wheat at a food lot, they're actually a lot healthier for us. So that's really important. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to share a few of those things. I have a lot more I'd like to share with you, but I'll just keep these videos kind of short. I'm going to get ready to go on our exercise here. But it's a beautiful day. It's really, really, really cold. The wind chill is extraordinary. So I'm shivering, which is creating the same effects as exercise. So live, love, laugh, learn, leave a legacy, and keep it wild.